Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. We're jumping right into the Law of One today, looking specifically at Session 69.
Yeah, session 69 is a really interesting one. Lots of detailed Q&A.
Exactly. It covers some quite specific ground things like vulnerability in different states of consciousness, how negative influences might work, and the experiences of wanderers.
Definitely some potentially mind-bending stuff, but also things that might bring those aha
For
moments.
sure. And you're here to help us unpack it all, connect the dots within the material.
Happy to be here, ready to explore these ideas and see what stands out.
Great. So let's start right at the beginning. Question 69.0. Ray opens with their usual greeting.
In the love and the light of the one infinite creator, always powerful.
Always. But then almost immediately, there's this very practical detail about the instrument's hair.
Right, the antenna-like materials, as Rhea puts it.
Yeah.
They mention it's causing a slight interference with the contact.
It seems like such a small thing, but it really highlights how incredibly sensitive this whole channeling process is, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows that even tiny physical details can affect the connection. It's this blend of, the cosmic and the very practical physical reality of the instrument.
That precision Rash shows, even with something like hair placement, underscores the care involved.
Definitely. It speaks to the respect for the instrument and the integrity of the contact.
Okay, moving to 69.1 and 69.2. These questions are about the instrument, Carla's physical energy. The questioner's concerned.
Understandably so, given the demands of this work,
Yeah, and Ra confirms, quite directly, a complete physical energy depletion.
which sounds alarming.
It does, but Ra immediately follows up saying that energy has been transferred and it's available for the session.
Okay, so there's a cost, a depletion, but also a mechanism of support in place.
Exactly. It shows the sacrifice involved, but also that supportive energy that makes it possible, and interplay.
A real testament to the commitment of everyone involved, seen and unseen, and that interconnectedness.
All right. Now, 69.3. This was a big one, packed with detail. The questions about vulnerability to negative adepts. Is the trance state the only time a positive entity is vulnerable?
And Ra corrects that a bit, right? They call it a misperceived concept.
Yeah. They say vulnerability exists whenever the mind-body-spirit complex leaves the physical body without proper protection.
So it's broader than just this specific trance work. Any out-of-body state carries potential vulnerability if you're not, let's say, energetically prepared.
Like leaving your house unlocked when you go out. You need some kind of energetic safeguarding.
Though Rod does add that most sort of everyday out-of-body moments, daydreaming, light meditation probably won't attract that kind of negative attention.
Right. The danger in this specific trance context, Ross says, is more about disrupting the return or damaging the ectoplasm.
Ectoplasm, that energy link between the physical and non-physical.
That seems to be the idea. And they mentioned this instrument has a unique setup with internalized ectoplasmic activity, making touch and light tricky.
Highlighting the specific sensitivities and challenges of this contact.
And then they mentioned the main difficulty being negative removal under free will, which sounds ominous.
It does, and it contrasts this trance state with, say, the after-death state.
How so?
Well, Ross suggests that after death, positive entities generally have more protection from guides, comrades, parts of the self. There's less vulnerability there compared to this specific intentional trance work.
Okay, so 69.4 basically confirms that understanding, that the protective friends are less available specifically in this trance state they're doing.
Yes, Ra agrees with the questioner there. It points to the unique nature of this service.
Which leads right into 69.5. Why is this trance state different regarding protection?
And the answer is fascinating. It's not because guides aren't around.
No, it's because of the intent behind the work. Ross says the group's intent to serve others with the highest attempt at near purity acts like a powerful beacon.
A beacon that attracts attention, including from, as Ra puts it, a much more determined friend of negative polarity.
It's almost paradoxical. The purity of the positive intent makes it a target for disruption, like a bright light drawing moths, maybe.
That's a good analogy. The intensity of the positive service potentially provokes a response from those seeking to impede it or maintain a different balance.
Then Ray adds two really important points. First, how long and hard they search for this specific channel and group.
Underscoring just how rare and valuable this connection is. If it were broken, finding another would be extremely difficult.
And second, Ray expresses deep gratitude for the group's sacrifices, even mentioning the Latwi entities.
Which emphasizes the collaborative effort, the dedication required from everyone, and maybe hints at a wider network of support.
Okay, let's shift gears to 69.6. This is about after-death conditions. Does the type of death, natural, accident, suicide, affect the protection from negative entities?
Ray confirms that, generally speaking, after death, negative entities have a hard time removing an entity.
Why is that?
Because the consciousness, once free from the body, has greater awareness. It's less gullible, as Ra puts it, less susceptible to the illusions or fears of physical life.
That's actually quite reassuring, isn't it? A natural safeguard.
It is, but Ra does draw distinctions based on the type of death.
Right. Natural death is seen as the most harmonious.
Whereas death by violence, like murder, can cause confusion that needs resolving.
And suicide.
Protection is still there, Ra indicates, but there's a need for significant healing work and a renewed focus on the lessons of third density in the next life.
So the general protection holds, but the immediate experience and the path forward can vary a lot.
Exactly. It highlights how our state at the moment of transition matters.
Question 69.7
Mm.
then asks about unconscious states during life accidents, anesthesia, drugs. Are we vulnerable then?
Ra suggests it's unlikely. Negative removal isn't really a factor in those everyday unconscious states.
The key difference seems to be intent. Vulnerability increases when you're intentionally projecting consciousness outward for service, like in this channeling work.
Right. It's not just any loss of consciousness, but a specific kind of intentional altered state for a specific purpose.
Okay, 69.8 and 69.9 get into the first distortion, free will and negative service. The questioner wonders if the instrument's free will choice to serve creates an opening for negative balancing.
And Rai gives a very direct no to that specific idea.
Right. Ra says the instrument's free will is necessary, yes, but the first distortion primarily applies to the instrument's choice.
The negative forces, the Orion group, their strategy isn't about exploiting that free will directly, but rather trying to infringe upon free will without actually violating it.
Because violating it would cost them negative polarity.
Precisely. So they need to be, as Ross says, clever. It's about influence, temptation, creating opportunities for negative choices rather than direct coercion.
Subtle manipulation, maybe.
That seems to be the implication. Working within the bounds of free will, but pushing towards negative outcomes.
This leads into a really intriguing part, 69-point Dan and 69-point Moed, about wanderers being placed in negative time space. Ra confirms this has actually happened.
Which sounds incredibly challenging. A highly positive being in a purely negative environment.
And getting back isn't simple. Reg gives two main reasons. First, the wanderer's own higher self is often reluctant to enter that negative reality.
Understandable given the incompatibility, and that reluctance can apparently draw things out.
And second, the wanderer actually has lessons to learn there, specifically learning and teaching the love of self.
Love of self, in a negative polarity environment focused on service to self.
Exactly. The wanderer needs to find that balance, that self-acceptance, to achieve a kind of oneness, even with the negative other selves there before they can potentially shift back.
Wow. That's a profound challenge, learning self-love as the key to navigating and ultimately leaving a negative space.
And Ra adds that even after learning this, reversing polarity back to positive can be a long process with a risk of losing positive orientation along the way.
It really emphasizes the potential dangers and the deep commitment involved for wanderers. An immense sacrifice.
Question 69.11 asks how often this has happened, this displacement of a wanderer.
And the answer is just once in this whole master cycle.
Only one time, which really underscores how extreme and unusual this situation is. Ra can't give details, citing the law of confusion.
The rarity suggests significant safeguards are usually effective for wanderers, and the law of confusion prevents interference with that entity's journey, presumably.
Then 69.13 and 69.14 clarify the higher self's role incarnating from time-space into our space-time. And Ra confirms the description of the positive entity's experience entering negative time-space.
Initial darkness, then finding themselves in this negative reality with negatively polarized beings.
A stark picture, definitely.
It vividly portrays the vibrational clash, the alien nature of that environment for a positive soul.
So 69.15 follows up on how incredibly difficult and traumatic this must be.
And Ra's perspective here is fascinating, maybe even counterintuitive.
Go on.
Ra says the positive entity in this situation is often a poor student of the love of self.
Because they're so focused on service to others.
Apparently. That strong outward focus might mean they haven't fully developed their own inner foundation of self-acceptance, self-worth.
And in a negative environment where self-interest is dominant.
That lack of self-love becomes a major hurdle, making the learning process much longer and harder than for a native negative entity.
That really turns things on its head. It suggests self-love isn't selfish, but actually a crucial foundation, even for service to others.
A fundamental balance needed for resilience, it seems.
Okay, 69.16 and 69.17 circle back to free will. Is this misplacement still a function of the wanderer's free will?
Rack confirms yes, it is, even if unintentional.
The questioner struggles with this. Like, how can free will lead to such a bad outcome if it wasn't fully understood? Influence from negative beings, lack of info.
And Ra gives two helpful ways to think about it. First, the roadmap analogy.
Right. You freely choose your path, but if the map is bad or you misread it, you can still get lost. Free will doesn't mean perfect knowledge or guaranteed outcome.
Exactly. Miscalculations happen, surprises happen.
And the second point.
The idea of a magical charge or metaphysical power that comes with intense service work.
Making you sort of visible or accessible on an energetic level.
Two entities of similar power, Rai says, regardless of polarity. They contrast the discipline of the Orion group with the current group's less developed collective finesse while still valuing their individual efforts.
So intense dedication creates an energetic signature that can attract attention, positive or negative.
That seems to be the gist. It highlights the importance of both intent and energetic skill or discipline in these realms.
Let's look at 69.88 and 69.19. The questioner's worried now about doing other channeling, fearing Carla might slip into trance and be vulnerable.
A very practical concern, given everything discussed.
Ra offers 3 safeguards. First, Carla working on her subconscious taboo against calling Ra unintentionally, like reinforcing a mental boundary.
Conscious intention setting, basically.
Second, they agree to avoid open Q&A channeling for a while, less opportunity for spontaneous trance.
Reducing potential triggers. Makes sense.
And third, the simple act of holding Carla's hand during sessions.
How does that help?
Explains it prevents reaching the deeper meditative states needed for trance and provides auric and physical grounding, an anchor.
So practical, physical, and mental safeguards working together.
Exactly. Now 69.2 and 69.21 take an unexpected turn, analyzing a fictional book, Esmeralda Sweetwater.
Yeah, that was surprising. Asking about the accuracy of magical techniques described in the story.
Specifically, retrieving someone from negative time-space. And Ra says
that there were no errors in the techniques described, and clarifies Esmeralda was the adept character.
It's wild, isn't it? That fiction could accurately reflect these metaphysical principles.
It suggests these underlying truths can resonate and find expression even in creative works. Ra mentions practice is helpful, but avoids specifics due to the law of confusion.
They do confirm the value of group efforts in such work, though.
Highlighting again the power of collective, focused intent and skill.
Okay, last one. 69.22. Comparing self-designed rituals versus those from established magical orders like the Golden Dawn.
And Ra's response is pretty general.
Yeah, they acknowledge the questioner understands the formidable system of service and discipline in established groups and seem pleased with that understanding.
It seems to imply that the key isn't the specific ritual's origin, but the sincerity, discipline, and focus energy behind it.
So authentic intent and dedicated practice are what give rituals their power, whether they're ancient or newly created.
That feels right. It validates the potential in personal, sincere spiritual work.
And that brings us to the end of session 69. Ra closes with gratitude, wishes of power and peace in the one infinite creator, and Adonai.
A really dense session, packed with nuances about vulnerability, polarity, service, and free will.
Absolutely. This deep dive, wow, it took us through some really complex ideas. The vulnerability in altered states, the dynamics of positive intent attracting negative attention, that whole wanderer displacement scenario.
That wanderer part, especially the rarity and the focus on learning self-love, was definitely striking.
Yeah. For me, here's where it got really interesting. That concept, that dedication to service, that magical charge, makes you accessible, potentially, to both polarities.
It really drives home the need for constant awareness, for energetic integrity, even when intentions are pure.
So, thinking about our own journeys, what does this mean? Especially if you feel called to serve or explore consciousness more deeply.
It seems to point towards the importance of balance, certainly. Protection, awareness.
And, maybe most unexpectedly, that deep need for self-love as the bedrock for everything else.
Couldn't agree more. A powerful takeaway.
Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration of Session 69. The Law of One just keeps offering more layers to peel back.
It really does. Always more to discover.
We'd love to hear from you, the listener. What other areas you're curious about for future deep dives? Let us know.
Your curiosity guides where we go next.
Namaste. I am you, and you are me.